Imagine walking into a room and making one of fashion's most legendary photographers literally say, "Wow." Imagine being so magnetic that designers demanded you in every show.
I didn't build into a model. I just sort of became one.
So unforgettable that years later they'd nickname new models after you. Now imagine dying at 26 with none of those same people at your funeral. Not one. Sounds impossible, right? But this is exactly what happened to Gia Carangi. It's 1977 and the word supermodel doesn't even exist yet. Models are just models. Beautiful women who wear clothes and shut up about their personal lives. Then along comes this 17-year-old from Northeast Philly who's about to flip the entire game upside down. Gia Marie Carangi wasn't supposed to be here. Working-class Italian-American dad who ran sandwich shops. Irish-Welsh mom who walked out when Gia was 11. And Gia? She was the weird kid who hung with the Bowie kids. You know the type, all glitter and gender-bending and giving the finger to whatever normal meant in the 70s. The thing about growing up in Northeast Philadelphia in the 70s, it wasn't exactly a hotbed of acceptance. This was blue-collar America where men worked with their hands and women stayed home and nobody talked about being different. But Gia? She was different from the jump. Tall for her age, all limbs and attitude with these massive brown eyes that seemed to see right through you. Her father, Joe, tried his best after Kathleen left, running those sandwich shops, working 12-hour days, coming home exhausted to find his daughter had painted her nails black and was listening to Lou Reed at volumes that could wake the dead. What do you do with a kid like that? Especially when you're just trying to keep the lights on? What made Gia different from day one? She was openly, unapologetically gay. And I'm not talking about Hollywood, oh, maybe she dated women gay. I'm talking about sending flowers to girls at Abraham Lincoln High School gay, telling people she'd slept with a man once and could have done that with a German Shepherd gay. In 1977, when most people were still pretending Rock Hudson was straight, she wasn't just gay, she was fearlessly gay. In an era when coming out could get you fired, beaten up, or worse, Gia was out there living her truth like it was the most natural thing in the world. Classmates would whisper about her, teachers would side-eye her style choices. But Gia didn't care. She had this incredible ability to just be herself. Consequences be damned. One night she's dancing at a Philly nightclub, probably high on Bowie and Possibility, when a photographer spots her. Within weeks, she's on a train to New York. Soaking wet from the rain, dressed like a boy, as she put it, she walks into Wilhelmina Models, one of the best agencies in the world. Wilhelmina Cooper took one look at this kid and was floored. Signed her on the spot. No test shots. No, let's see how you do. Just yes. Because even then, before anyone knew what Gia would become, you could feel it. That thing. That undefinable thing that separates the girls who model from the girls who change modeling forever. So check this out. Gia's first major photo shoot happens in October 1978. Chris von Wangenheim puts her behind a chain-link fence. Naked, with makeup artist Sandy Linter. Also naked. It's provocative, it's bold, it's everything fashion in the late 70s is trying to be. And just like that, Gia goes supernova. By the end of 1978, Vogue is calling her rise meteoric. Gia herself said it best. I didn't build into a model, I just sort of became one. No struggling for years, no slow climb. Just boom. You're it, kid. Wilhelmina becomes more than her agent. She's the mother Gia needed, the protector, the one stable thing in a world moving at light speed. Wilhelmina Cooper wasn't just running an agency. She was building an empire, and she had this incredible eye for spotting girls who could transcend modeling and become something bigger. She saw it in Gia immediately. The thing about Wilhelmina was she got it. She understood that Gia wasn't just another pretty face from Philadelphia. This girl had something dangerous, something electric that could set the fashion world on fire. But she also saw the vulnerability underneath all that bravado. Gia might have acted fearless, but she was still just a teenager far from home, trying to navigate an industry that could chew you up and spit you out before lunch. Under Wilhelmina's wing, Gia isn't just safe, she's unstoppable. April 1979, British Vogue cover, age 19. April 1979, Vogue Paris. August 1980, American Vogue. February 1981, Vogue Italia. The list goes on and on. Cosmopolitan can't get enough of her. 5 covers between 1979 and 1982. Francesco Scavullo, the photographer who shot those covers, literally called her the ultimate Cosmo girl. What's insane, by 1980, Gia's earning $500,000 a year, $500,000, in 1980 money. She's 20 years old and making more than most CEOs. Armani wants her, Dior wants her, Versace wants her, Yves Saint Laurent wants her. She's not just a model anymore, she's Gia. One name, like Cher. Like Madonna would be later. And the best part? She's doing it all while living as an openly gay woman, pursuing Sandy Linter, that makeup artist from the Chain-Link shoot, with flowers and showing up at her apartment, dating women publicly when most of Hollywood was still deep in the closet. She even shows up in Blondie's Atomic video in 1980, dancing in goggles like the coolest kid at the end of the world, because that's what Gia was, ahead of her time, untouchable, absolutely magnetic. Wilhelmina's watching over all of it, keeping her safe, keeping her working, keeping her Gia. But New York in the late 70s and early 80s was a different animal. Studio 54 was in full swing, cocaine was everywhere, and the fashion world was living fast and loose. Wilhelmina tried to keep Gia grounded, but how do you protect someone from a world they're determined to dive headfirst into? Here's something about Gia's walk. Models today still can't replicate it. She'd hit that runway and it was like, how do I even describe this? Someone who moves like they own not just the catwalk, but the air around it. The molecules, the light itself. There was this liquid quality to how she moved. Not the precise, measured steps of traditional runway models, but something more primal, more real. She walked like she was dancing to music only she could hear, like the whole world was her stage and she was giving the performance of her life every single time. Arthur Elgort, Richard Avedon, Francesco Scavullo, the biggest photographers in the world, they're all fighting to shoot her. And it's not just because she's beautiful. It's because when Gia's in front of the camera, something happens. Scavullo said only a few models ever walked into his studio and made him literally say, wow. Stop and think about that. This man has photographed everyone. And Gia made him stop and say, wow.
I became a new kind of model. She just was like a complete free spirit and very streetwise and marvelous to work with. She had a way of working that no other model did. She didn't have set poses. She was terrific. I had to learn to focus the camera very fast to chase after her.
She's androgynous when everyone else is doing blonde bombshell, dark-haired when fashion wants California beach girls, raw when everyone else is polished. She once said models are supposed to be, the clothes look beautiful, make my money and leave. But Gia made you forget about the clothes. Hell, she made you forget about breathing. Photographers would tell stories about how the air in the room changed when Gia walked in, how conversations would stop, how even the most jaded fashion veterans would pause and stare. It wasn't just her beauty, though God knows she was beautiful. It was her presence, this almost supernatural ability to command attention without saying a word, those 5 or 10 seconds on the runway. That was her favorite part. Not the hair, not the makeup, not the waiting around. Just those seconds of pure freedom where she could be exactly who she was. Fierce, untamed, completely herself. And Sandy Linter, who Gia's still chasing with all the romance of a teenager, she sees it too. Sandy later said, "It was never a torrid sexual affair, but we did love each other." Just think about being loved by someone like Gia, being the object of that kind of focus. This is Gia at her peak, the parties at Studio 54, the shoots with the world's best, the kind of fame where you literally just need one name. She's made it. She's everything. She's also about to lose the one person holding it all together. Okay, so March 1980. Remember this date because everything, and I mean everything, changes here. Wilhelmina Cooper gets diagnosed with lung cancer, and it's not the kind where they give you hope. It's the kind where they tell you to get your affairs in order. The woman who discovered Gia, who protected her, who was basically her New York mother, she's dying, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. What people don't talk about enough. The relationship between Wilhelmina and Gia was special. It wasn't just business. Wilhelmina saw something in Gia that reminded her of herself when she was young and hungry and determined to conquer the fashion world. She'd taken Gia under her wing not just as a client, but as a daughter figure. And Gia, who'd lost her own mother at such a young age, finally had someone who believed in her completely. Gia's watching her savior waste away. The one person who really got her, who saw past the wild child stuff to something special. Wilhelmina dies on March 1st, 1980. She's only 40 years old. And Gia? Gia falls apart. The thing about Studio 54 and Mud Club and all those legendary places Gia was hanging out, they weren't just discos. They were pharmaceutical wonderlands, cocaine everywhere, quaaludes, and something new that people were just starting to whisper about. Heroin. Grief makes you do stupid things, especially when you're 20 years old and the one person who kept you anchored to reality is gone. Gia had always been a party girl. Champagne, cocaine, the occasional quaalude to come down. But this was different. This was trying to numb pain so deep it felt like it might kill her. Gia thought she was smart about it, thought if she just snorted it instead of injecting, she couldn't get hooked. That's what she told people. That's what lots of people thought back then. Spoiler alert, addiction doesn't care how you take it. The grief is unbearable. The one person who kept her grounded is gone. And Gia's way of coping? She's getting high. First a little, then a lot, then constantly. By late 1980, she's injecting. The thing she swore she'd never do. And everything starts to unravel at a speed that would make your head spin. Fashion's funny, right? One day you're worth $500,000 a year. The next day you're worthless. And the fall? It's fast, brutal, total. Late 1980 and Gia's showing up to shoots high. Not buzzed, not a little loose. High. On one Caribbean shoot, she literally breaks down crying because she can't find drugs. Francesco Scavullo, loyal, loving Francesco, has to lay her down like a child to sleep it off. Then come the track marks. November 1980, she's shooting for Vogue, and there they are. Red bumps running up her arms like a map of her destruction. They can airbrush some of it, but come on. Everyone can see. There's this famous story about a Vogue cover where she's posing with her arms behind her back. For years, people said it was to hide the needle marks. Scavullo always denied it, said it was for aesthetic reasons. But the fact that the rumor even exists tells you everything. November 1980. Gia leaves Wilhelmina's agency, signs with Ford models. Eileen Ford, the woman who basically invented modeling as we know it, takes one look at Gia's behavior and drops her. 3 weeks. That's all it takes. 3 weeks for one of the most powerful people in fashion to say nope, not dealing with this. And just like that, Gia goes from most wanted to most avoided. Friends start backing away. Sandy Linter, who Gia loved, cuts off contact. Has to.
She had a syringe in her hand and she wanted to shoot me up with it. I said, "You're out of your mind." She absolutely wore me down and wore me out. All of a sudden I just said, "Go ahead, do it." And she shot me up and I passed out for about 16 hours. She wanted to take me with her on the ride that she was on.
Being associated with Gia could end your career. That's how toxic she's become. In less than a year, she goes from everyone's favorite to fashion's pariah. March 1981, she's driving high and crashes through a fence. Leads cops on a chase, gets arrested, cocaine and alcohol in her system. She tries rehab, 21 days, moves back to Philly to live with her mom. And for a minute, just a minute, it looks like maybe she can pull it together. But addiction's like that, isn't it? It waits, it whispers. It wins. Here's the heartbreaking part. Gia actually tried. God, she tried. Late 1981 and she's calling around, begging for another chance. Elite model management, run by Monique Pillard, says, "Okay, we'll try." Most clients won't touch her. Her reputation is radioactive. But Francesco Scavullo, beautiful, loyal Francesco who never gave up on her, he's got an idea. One more Cosmopolitan cover. April 1982. Her last shot at redemption. When those photos come out, people in the industry are shook. She's still beautiful. Of course she is. But there's something in her eyes now. An emptiness. Like someone turned off the lights inside and forgot to turn them back on. She gets a few more gigs, some catalog work with Albert Watson, even a Versace campaign with Richard Avedon. And for a second you think maybe, just maybe, she can climb back up. Then comes the Versace incident. Late 1982, she's on set. Major shoot. Real money. The kind of job that could restart everything. And Gia? She tells everyone she's stepping out for cigarettes. She never comes back. Just walks off one of the most prestigious shoots in fashion and disappears into the city. That's it. That's the last time Versace will ever book her. The last time most of the industry will even speak her name. She tries methadone programs, tries to get clean. Nothing sticks. By the end of 1982, she's done. No one will hire her. The phone stops ringing. The checks stop coming. Early 1983, one last job. Tunisia, German catalog. They catch her using heroin on set and send her home. She's 22 years old and her career is over. Gia, the girl who made Francesco Scavullo say, "Wow," packs up her New York apartment and goes home to Philadelphia. And fashion? Fashion moves on like she never existed. What happens when you go from being worth $500,000 a year to being worth nothing? When you're 23 and your entire life is already behind you? You drift. Gia spends 1983 to 1985 floating between family, friends, lovers. The money's long gone, spent on drugs mostly. She tries normal jobs, retail, cafeteria work at a nursing home, tries photography classes, tries to build something new. But the drugs always call her back. By late 1985, she's in Atlantic City. And this part's hard to talk about, but it's true. She's selling herself for drug money. The girl who was on 5 Cosmopolitan covers is turning tricks to afford her next fix. December 1985. Gia's in the hospital with pneumonia. Bilateral, which means both lungs. She's so sick they run more tests, and that's when they find it. AIDS. In 1985, nobody really understands AIDS yet. They know it kills. They know there's no cure. They know it's terrifying. And now, Gia has it. When Gia was dying, she told a friend she wasn't afraid of death. She was afraid of being forgotten. Imagine that. After everything she'd done, everything she'd been, her biggest fear was that no one would remember. October 1986, she's back in the hospital. Hahnemann University Hospital in Philadelphia. She weighs nothing, looks nothing like the girl who redefined beauty just 6 years ago. November 18, 1986. Gia dies from AIDS-related complications. She's 26 years old. November 23, 1986. Her funeral. Small service in Philadelphia. The part that may break your heart. Not one person from fashion shows up. Not one. The industry that made her, that profited from her, that put her on hundreds of magazine covers around the world. They don't even send flowers. The Philadelphia papers run a tiny death notice. Former model 26. That's it. That's all she gets. Francesco Scavullo finds out weeks later. Sends a mass card to the family. But by then, Gia's already in the ground and fashion's already forgotten she existed. Except stories like Gia's don't stay buried. 1993, journalist Stephen Fried publishes Thing of Beauty, the tragedy of supermodel Gia. Suddenly, people are talking about her again. 1998, HBO makes a movie. Angelina Jolie plays Gia and wins a Golden Globe. Overnight, millions of people who never heard her name now know her story. Cindy Crawford reveals she was nicknamed Baby Gia when she started modeling because she looked like her. Says photographers booked her specifically because she reminded them of Gia. The AIDS memorial quilt adds multiple panels in Gia's name. Blocks 5, 9, 49, 3505 and 4113, ensuring that somewhere, somehow, she's remembered. Magazines that ignored her death suddenly can't write enough about her life. Vanity Fair, Allure, The Independent. Everyone wants to tell Gia's story now. Now that it's safe. Now that she can't embarrass anyone or show up high or be difficult. Harper's Bazaar lists her among the 15 greatest supermodels of the 1980s. Diva magazine writes that she epitomized lesbian chic more than a decade before the term was coined. And isn't that always the way? We love our icons better when they're dead, when they can't talk back or mess up or be human. What all those articles and movies and retrospectives get right, Gia Carangi mattered. She took fashion from pretty to powerful, from safe to dangerous, from straight to gloriously unapologetically queer. She was the first, before Naomi, before Linda, before Cindy, before Kate. There was Gia. So maybe the fashion world didn't show up to her funeral. Maybe they tried to forget she existed. But we remember. We see her in every model who dares to be different, in every photo that captures something raw and real, in every kid who looks in the mirror and thinks maybe, just maybe, being exactly who you are is enough. Gia lived fast, loved hard, and left a beautiful corpse. But more than that, she left a legacy. She proved that sometimes 5 seconds of freedom is worth more than a lifetime of playing it safe. And if that's not iconic, I don't know what is.